Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Hi, I'm Tushneem Dharmagadda. I'm the CEO of HubEngage. We are an employee communications and engagement platform. We've been in the business for about 8 to 9 years now. So yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. And where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Austin, Texas.
Awesome. Yeah, same here. So yeah, I'm glad to have somebody on the show. It's also based in Austin. So in terms of your business, I'm curious if you can just tell us more like how exactly you help your customers, even just going back to just how you got the idea for it and what your background is.
So I've been an entrepreneur for quite some time now. We started off in the consulting space. I think like you're in the consulting space as well at this point. But basically like working with different customers in terms of what they want to do or build, working with a lot of startups in the mobile space. And that's what we were doing, building different apps for them, platforms for them. And as we were doing that, at the back of our mind, we also were thinking about being a product company at some point. We didn't know when, because becoming a product company is not that easy. You need to think about an idea, then you need to get the product market fit, and then eventually, as your customers start paying you, transition into a product company. So while we were doing that, we were playing in the gamification space, because one of our goals as we were building these mobile apps for different startups was figuring out how to get more engagement on those apps, right? And because there's a lot of competition in the space. So if you are able to keep users in the app, that's a great thing. So we built out gamification engines behind the apps. So for example, when people interacted with the apps, they would get some points, and then they would use those points to redeem them for, like gift cards or merchandise and stuff like that. While we were doing that, we started focusing on the consumer space because we were building consumer apps for other customers. And as we started talking to different customers, we started asking them, right, like, would you use this gamification engine for like different purposes of engaging consumers? And when we started talking to bigger companies, especially companies like AT&T and so on, and they were like, we know everything about our customers, when they make the calls, how many calls they make, how much time they spend on the phone, but we have no idea who's working in the stores and selling our products to those customers, right? So it was kind of like, eye-opening for us, because you would always think people know their employees more than their customers, but it so happened that, people knew more about their customers than the employees that were selling their products to their customers, right? So we figured there's a gap there. And then we started working on this product called HubEngage, more around, and started showing that to different companies, asking them if they would use it, if we were able to connect their employees with a mobile app, especially like in the deskless space, and companies which had like a mix of blue collared, white collared, or frontline employees, where the connection was non-existent or minimal, and everyone bought into that idea, right? And so we then started selling the product out to customers. The gamification aspect definitely helped, because we figured the engagement aspect of how we can bring users and engage them, except that the audience was different. In this case, the audience was employees instead of the consumers. So that was the origin for the idea, and we kind of like pivoted from consumers to employees, and that's where we found the product market fit. And yeah, we grew from there.
Awesome. So I guess as of today, right, like who is kind of an ideal customer that you work with? I guess like if you can talk about, if it's like just like a certain vertical, company size, geographic location, what does that look like for you?
So we primarily focus on companies that are either a mix of desk and deskless workers, or white collar and blue collared workers. right? Or companies that have frontline workers. And in most of these cases, employees are not in front of a computer, so they are not like always on Slack or on Teams, waiting for your messages to come through and, respond instantly. They are all over the place, right? And connecting these people is challenging even today for a lot of, organizations out there, because they may have all the tools that they need for their corporate side, but then as soon as you talk about the blue collared workers or the deskless workers, they have multiple tools or they don't have anything at all. So that's where we play. And if you're looking at industries, these are manufacturing industries, healthcare, hospitality, retail, oil and gas, construction. So a lot of the industries, apart other than the IT, the pure IT side of things, we play in those industries. And again, like we tend to work with customers of all sizes, all the way from like 50 employees to 50,000 or more. So again, the spectrum is like really wide in terms of the size of companies that we work with.
And then, it seems to me, right, like a lot of the industries that you work with, especially now in 2025, there's so much turnover happening, right? It's like, especially since COVID and retail. So I guess,
Yeah.
what have you seen from customers that have used your platform? Have they been able to like effectively kind of minimize turnover, keep employees happier? What does that look like?
So I think COVID was a turning point for every company. And the fact that we are using Zoom now and doing a podcast, I think that's, again, that's after COVID, it's become like so popular, right? So I think like at that point, every organization, whether it was IT or, like construction or healthcare, they all realized that communication was important because they were all in one place trying to communicate with each other. But then like, Zoom really like, exploded because without Zoom, people couldn't communicate at all, right? And the same, so that was kind of a boon for us, where everyone realized, we need to invest in tools that can help us reach our employees, right? Wherever they are. And that's a big difference that we see before and after COVID. So now today, people don't question when you tell them, hey, we are here to help you with better comms and better employee engagement. They always want to talk to us and see how they can reach their employees. And that's I think that was the first part of your question. And what was the second part? Was it about retention?
Yeah, just about retention, right? Because it's like, especially in some of these industries, like you mentioned, hospitality, manufacturing. I've been in the
Yeah.
manufacturing
Yeah.
space and,
Yeah.
I saw lots of churn, right? And especially during COVID and,
Yeah.
people were like, oh, look, when we go to this job and that job, they're paying me like $1 more, $2 more. It's like all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
stuff where
Yeah.
so I'm just curious about that.
So I just wrote a post on LinkedIn about this today. I think a majority of employees don't leave because of salaries. Majority of employees, they leave because they don't feel heard, right? They feel that the leadership doesn't care about them, right? And they ignore them. And I think that's a big factor in the churn side of things, right? And people always think that, I can eliminate churn by just like, giving $1 more or $10 more per hour, especially like if you're in an hourly worker space, and then I'll have loyal employees working for me forever. But that's not the case, right? I think employees at the end of the day, they want to feel heard. They want to know that, their problems are getting solved. And again, that only happens through channels where that you establish for them to be able to like communicate with you and also hear from the leadership, right? Like, this is what's going on in our organization. This is what we are doing for you, and appreciating them, right? Like when they are doing a good job. So I think like a lot of these soft factors come into play, especially like with the churn side of things. And what we have seen from all the organizations that we work with, including our own organization, I'll not claim that, our compensation is like the highest and I can retain employees. The reason employees are with us, and we have like a really high retention rate, right? Our employees have been with us almost since we started. And the reason primarily there is we talk to them, right? Like we give them that those channels where their voice can be heard, right? And as leader myself, I always try to have that conversation with them, know their families, and I think that plays a really big role in retention at the end of the day.
No, exactly. And I think also it's something where, tools like what you have, it helps kind of streamline things because for me, it's like as of now, our company is smaller, I can have those conversations myself. I can just reach
Yeah.
out to them. But to your point, is this, like as you scale, it's kind of harder to
Yes.
be in,
Yeah.
like in the weeds as much and have those conversations directly with everybody and make sure that everybody is being heard.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I think like if a lot of companies they think that I'll just buy a tool for employee engagement and I'll just set it up and that'll solve my employee engagement problem, right? But technology at the end of the day is just a channel through which it'll help you do things better and in a more automated fashion. But at the end of the day, like, the leadership and the culture has to be set up in a way that, drives employee engagement and in a way that like employees feel that they are heard. Right. So if that doesn't happen, then no technology, no matter what it is, like can solve that employee engagement problem.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess in terms of like for the future, for your company, are you kind of like what is kind of like some of your biggest goal? Are you looking to like just target more enterprise customers or certain verticals, different geolocations? Like what are you kind of focused on here in the next year or so?
Right now, I mean, our primary market is North America. Having said that, we also have customers in Europe. We have customers in Asia as well. And a lot of the customers that we work with in the US, they are global. So pretty much our platform is used across the globe. We are a multilingual platform. I think like, again, in terms of growth for us, I mean, there's a huge market to play in North America itself, which where we are trying to focus on and build more. But Asia is big as well. So that's another market that we are trying to crack. Again, each market brings, different ways of thinking, especially in the employee engagement space, even from an employee point of view, right? Like the culture is completely different in the US versus in India. Right. So the same tactics, the same tools may not work the way they should work. So you always need to adapt to the culture, not just like the region, but also the employee culture as well. Right. So I think like that's something that we are looking at. We are really investing, as every other company is, in AI as well. So our platform is AI heavy, but we are trying to automate as much as we can in the space. Because again, especially like, if you're looking at the employee engagement and internal comm space, regardless of the size of company, and you'll be amazed, right? Like whether it's a 50% company or a 50,000 company, employee company, the number of people managing internal comms, employee engagement, and all these other aspects, those teams are really, really tiny, right? It's usually like 1 to 5 people managing the entire organization for employee engagement, internal comms, and so on. So with our platform, our goal is to help them with as much as we can by automating the tasks that they do, trying to help them analyze data and give them insights into what they should be talking about, what their employees are asking for, right? So we are trying to automate a lot of those things using AI. On the other hand, we are also building AI tools for the employees as well. So when they try to seek information, they can get information that they need right off the bat. And it's not just like, company announcements and so on. We are trying to pull in a lot of information from all the different systems in the organization and become like one source through which employees can like, get all that information from.
Got it. So essentially, it's sort of like the AI chat, voice, or whether it's
Yeah. Yeah.
textual. If they have a
Hmm.
question about a certain policy, or if they have any feedback, they can just record a voice note. It'll like transcribe it with AI and then
Yeah.
share it with the team.
Yes, basically, yeah, like an AI chatbot. That's one of the interfaces that we have through which they can ask any question. And then we can not only answer those questions, but also recommend actions that they need to take and where they should be taking those actions.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's definitely a much more cost-effective way. I mean, not just for you, but also for the company. And I think from that standpoint, I can kind of streamline that process. So
Yeah.
in terms of, you starting this business, you said that it's been about 8, 9 years now. So if you could go back in time to before you got started, what is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
focus more on sales and marketing. And again, I think that's something that I've realized off late. I probably started that doing off late, but again, it also depends, right? Like most founders, they typically come from a technology background, like me, or like a product background, right? And when you come from those backgrounds, like you're so focused on the product and making sure your product is like perfect before you even start talking to customers or selling it. And you're basically like, into the product all the time, right? And I think that's a big, I mean, it's an advantage because you can develop the best product that you can. But at the same time, if you're not able to sell it, I mean, best products remain best products, right? They'll not become the best companies. So I think if the advice that I have for a lot of people is if you're starting a product company, no matter like what stage you are at, like start talking about it through LinkedIn and other channels, like, build in public, get feedback as quickly as you can on your product, and then start to build a community around your product. So people start trying it out, give it out for free. Often entrepreneurs are they're afraid that somebody might steal their idea, and they don't want to talk about it. They build everything in stealth, and like 1 year down the road when they launch it, they realize there's no product market fit. So I think like getting the product out and building a community and getting feedback and iterating it over a period of time will definitely help you get there faster.
That's good advice. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you or to use the platform, do you mind sharing your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, so best way is to find me on LinkedIn. So if you just search for Tushneem, you should be able to look me up. And if you're interested in learning more about HubEngage, you can go to hubengage.com. It's HUBENGAGE.com, and get in touch, and we'd be happy to like show you the product.
So, Tushneem, thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.